With the Senate's failure to convict the former squatter Trump for inciting a deadly insurrection is a miscarriage of justice. By any standard, the managers from the House of Representatives established that Trump bears responsibility for the violent assault in the Capitol by his crazed sycophants that were eager to stop Congress from ratifying Joe Biden's victory in a free and fair election. The 43 Republican senators who voted to acquit Trump, and some of them hiding behind the spacious constitutional objections and ignoring the precedents for convicting a former officeholder, have shamed themselves rather than defend Trump's face. The Constitution rightly requires a supermajority for conviction in an impeachment trial, but the overwhelming case against Trump should have easily produced that margin. Yet the trial was not in vain. 7 Republican senators did their duty and voted to convict, as did all 50 senators in the Democratic caucus, making it impossible for Trump and his apologists to claim that this impeachment was a purely partisan exercise. The trial's greatest value, however, was in establishing for a national television audience just how great a threat Trump posed to American democracy and might pose again. Had the Senate convicted Trump, it could have proceeded basically to disqualify him under the Constitution from holding any office of honor, trust, or profit under the United States again. Ideally, the powerful case mounted by the House will persuade voters in the Republican Party to bring about the same result. The managers proved in devastating detail that Trump incited the January 6th riot, not only in his inflammatory speech that day, but also in his long and duplicitous campaign to discredit the election and cling to power. They established that the rioters thought that they were acting at Trump's direction, and they showed that Trump behaved as recklessly after the assault on the Capitol as he did before his sycophants followed his excoriation to do the Stop the Steal Klan rally. Finally, they made it clear that winking and encouraging violence is a pattern for Trump, one that preceded his attempt to overturn the election results. As the representative Jamie Raskin, who's a Democrat from Maryland, said, January 6th was not some unexpected radical break from his normal law-abiding and peaceful disposition. This was his M.O. He knew that, egged on by his tweets, his lies, and his promise of a wild time in Washington, was to guarantee his grip on power. His most extreme sycophants would show up bright and early, and ready to attack, and ready to engage in violence, and ready to fight like hell for their hero, or basically their failure. In their defense, Trump's lawyers offered a grab bag of unconvincing arguments. The whole damn time they engaged in whataboutism, for example, by noting how Democrats have used the word fight when talking about their candidacies for their policies. They made spacious appeals to the First Amendment to excuse Trump's fomenting, and portrayed the impeachment as an attempt to disfranchise Trump's sycophants, and suggested that in impeaching Trump, the House was motivated by hatred for the former squatter, rather than revulsion at the violence he incited and determination to punish him for it. It's both. Basically, we hate Trump, and basically we're disgusted with the violence that he put on display. So it's both. Trump's lawyers seized on a throwaway line in the Trump speech about peaceful protest to transmute the incendiary demand to stop the Steal Klan rally at the Capitol into an appeal for ordinary political action. Basically, he never mentioned anything about a peaceful protest, and they suggested fallaciously that the fact that some of the rioters may have planned violence before Trump's speech or showed up at the Capitol before the speech meant that Trump couldn't have incited the others to storm the Capitol. Yeah, he did. The fair-minded Americans, including the many Trump voters, should come away from this revealing trial resolved never to allow Donald Trump to be threatened, to be treated as a legitimate participant in American political life, let alone be returned to the White House. And sadly, given the polarization that Trump both promoted and profited from, and a stark divide in the media landscape, many of the former presidents and the squatter, most fervent followers, will see his acquittal as vindication of a squatter who was subjected by the House to constitutional counterculture. Basically, he's not vindicated, basically, or he's not cleared of any vindication, basically. Nor is it clear that the Republican Party is ready to relinquish its connection with Trump. Consider the ways that some state party organizations have reacted to members of the Congress and who voted their contras in the impeachment process. Representative Liz Cheney, who's a Republican from Wyoming, and also she was the third most senior Republican in the House, and was censored by the Wyoming Republican Party for voting to impeach Trump. The state party also called on her to resign because she voted in impeaching him. Senator Bill Cassidy, a Republican from Louisiana, voted that it was constitutional he voted for it being constitutional for the impeachment trial to proceed, and the Republican Party of Louisiana issued a statement expressing profound disappointment and adding that the former squatter Trump is innocent of the politically motivated bogus charges on which he's not innocent. that's now pending against him in a court presided over by an openly hostile political opponent. A squatter who has been twice impeached and who manipulated his sycophants into believing his election fraud fantasy and ultimately delivering a harangue that sent some of them to invade the Capitol should be shunned and shamed despite this acquittal. The Republican senators who voted to acquit Trump because of a supposed constitutional objection should be in the forefront of the effort to ostracize him from the party. As for the millions of voters who supported, as for the millions of sycophants who supported Trump, they need to renounce their past allegiance to him or their agreement with his policy positions. To recognize that he betrayed them, as well when he lied about a rigged election inside of the mob, he is not worthy of their loyalty, and he's not loyal to you. So fuck off, bitches.